Good morning. So we've all heard, I guess, about Bill O'Reilly being fired from Fox News. And some of you may be surprised to know that I am actually a Bill O'Reilly fan. I am a fan of his books. He is a fabulous author. I read Killing Jesus, I read Killing the Rising Sun, and I own several other books that I plan on reading that he wrote this summer. Now look, he's been accused of sexual harassment, and he lost his job because of it. And I know some of you feminists out there are going to get out your thumbs and start typing because, as most of you know who know me, I'm not a feminist. I don't automatically jump to the conclusion that just because a woman says a man sexually harassed her or even raped her, that she's telling the truth. And the reason that I don't automatically jump to that conclusion is because I've done stories about young men, especially young men, who have been falsely accused of rape. And I also know that we live in a litigious society where people like to take powerful and rich people and bring them down, get whatever they can out of them. They're looking for a reason. Now look, again, I don't know Bill O'Reilly, but I do know that one of his accusers, a new accuser, since he was fired, was on The View last week, and she's a lovely African-American woman, seems very intelligent, but she feels that she was sexually harassed because Bill O'Reilly called her hot chocolate and told her, "You look good today, girl." Now she thinks maybe she should get on this lawsuit against Bill O'Reilly, sue him for paying her a compliment. So this show is not about if Bill O'Reilly is guilty or innocent. I don't know the man. And I don't know the women who are accusing him. I don't know what happened. I do know what, in my mind, constitutes sexual harassment. To me, sexual harassment is have sex with me or you don't get your promotion. Have sex with me or I'm going to fire you. Find a reason to fire you. Sexual harassment is not when your boss says, "Oh, you changed your hair, you look really pretty today." Or, "Oh, you're wearing a dress and we all wear jeans and t-shirts in this office. You look really nice." I say thank you. And there's another issue with this new, I have a chip on my shoulder because I'm a woman and you better never say nothing to me that makes me think that you think I'm pretty or anything sexual. See, as a woman, I like to feel attractive. And I like it when people tell me I look good. I don't know, maybe that's a bad thing. But I never take a compliment as an insult, even when it's given by a stranger. I have had people, when I do this show, comment, "You looked really pretty on the show today." Thank you. That's not an insult. If I were a black woman, now again, I'm not, so put your thumbs away. Nobody is less racist than Paula Luciano, so don't start. But for me, there are some people in this country who actually do have a chip on their shoulder, and that anything said to them, they will try to find a racist slur in it. Not everybody, but some. You know, if someone called me hot chocolate, I would be like, all right, my tanning must be working. My olive oil and all the stuff I put on my skin that doesn't have SPF. Because I like having a nice dark skin. I think it's beautiful. I think dark skin is gorgeous. So if somebody says, "Hey, hot chocolate, looking good," I'm like, "Oh, yay, thank you." This woman took it as a racial slur and an insult. And maybe that's how it was intended. Again, I do not know Bill O'Reilly, but I do know this. As a young woman in school, and I do want to say this, because again, sexual harassment is have sex with me and I'll give you an A on your English paper or on your math test. That's sexual harassment. What is not sexual harassment is wonderful teachers out there who notice that there is a girl in the class who is being bullied in 8th grade that might need a little pick-me-up. So my English teacher, and I'm going to share this video with him, Mr. Fitz, Because my last name was Kling, back then before Libby's, it was Kling Peaches. They were canned fruit. And it was Kling with a C, but I was Kling with a K, but he called me Peaches. And he always called me Peaches. And I loved it. And back then, I was fat. I was abused by my classmates, my fellow students. I was called train tracks because I had the serious braces, not the ones that match your outfit and the cool braces that everybody's take. Oh, take a selfie with me and my new braces. No, I had ugly braces. And I didn't have a father. So I got the bastard, I got beached whale, I got fat pig, Miss Piggy, and train tracks. Mr. Fitz called me Peaches. And I'm going to get emotional. And I have two other teachers to talk about, and I'm still getting emotional because, you know, I remember being that fat, ugly, bullied 14-year-old girl that would come home and think, why am I here? I don't want to live. I don't want to be here anymore. But then I knew I had English the next day. And Mr. Fitz, if I raised my hand, would say, hey, Peaches, what's the answer? Or he would see me in the hallway and say, hey, Peaches, how's your day going? And it would make me smile. What doesn't make me smile is that a teacher like Mr. Fitz today probably can't do that anymore. Can't make a 14-year-old girl look forward to going to school where she is bullied and ostracized, looking forward to her English class or seeing her English teacher in the hallway. Hey, Peaches, how you doing? And making my day. Making me get through my day. So thank you, Mr. Fitz. I'm sharing this video with you. But today, Mr. Fitz would probably be afraid to do that. Because a teacher like Mr. Fitz and the two other teachers I'm going to describe who I had in high school, they could lose their livelihood. They could lose their freedom if one student takes it the wrong way or decides that, you know, why is he calling me Peaches? Mr. Fitz was awesome. And by the way, just in case any of you are wondering, no, I was never alone in a room with him. He never even touched me physically. But he touched my heart. And he got me through the 8th grade. And in high school, I had two teachers. They were both math teachers. One was actually my homeroom teacher and my geometry teacher. And one was the teacher that was across the hall. And they were good friends. They were buddies. Mr. Holben and Mr. Mumaw. And in my senior year in high school, I went through a lot of emotional stress. My grandmother was bedridden. My mother was constantly taking care of my grandmother. Nurses were coming into my home. I had no privacy. I felt very violated all the time at home. I had a lot of problems, emotional problems. And I used to color my hair, and I colored it bright red. I mean, bright. This is showing up the wrong color, actually, by the way. It's magenta. I don't know why the filter isn't working, but they called me Red. Mr. Mumaw and Mr. Holben called me Red. And every morning before the first bell, I would get to school a little early, and Mr. Holben and Mr. Mumaw and me, we would stand around out in the hallway and talk. And it was interesting because I was a very smart 17-year-old. I was 17. Very smart. I read the same books they read, and they were adults. So we would discuss books. We would discuss current events. And then I just realized, as I think back on this a lot, when you think about the teachers who really formed your life, we talked about me, what was going on in my world, how I was doing. I was very into the arts. I was into acting. And they were interested in listening to my day when my mother didn't have time because she was busy with my grandmother who was very sick. And I talked to these teachers, to Mr. Mumaw and Mr. Holben, more than I talked to my own mother. And I got through high school without trying to kill myself, which many times I thought about. But then I thought, well, tomorrow morning, guess what I get to do? I get to go to school and talk to Mr. Mumal and Mr. Holman and tell them what I did last night and tell them about the book I'm reading or the play that I'd like to be an actress in or my plans for after school and maybe going to New York and becoming an actress. And they'll listen to me. I'm sorry, I'm emotional because today's children are dealing with so much more than I ever had to deal with. And they don't have teachers like this anymore. Because the teachers are afraid. They are afraid because of these accusations that are made. They are afraid to reach out to a child they know need help. I will never know unless he tells me. Because Mr. Fitz will see this video. If he called me Peaches because he knew how the other kids were treating me and that I needed somebody. And that maybe if he did that, I would know that if I was ever in really, really big trouble, I could go to him and he would listen and he would help me. Wow, I'm really sorry. But it really upsets me. It upsets me that we don't have people like this anymore in our lives. Because compliments have turned into insults by certain groups of people who are loud. And I am going to be doing the show. I am doing the show, but it just keeps getting bigger on busy bullies. And about how some people just get in anybody else's business and then loud groups of people change the rules. Where paying a compliment to someone can get you sued. Or put you in prison. And I think that's wrong. Because there are many times when I put my makeup on, or I get my hair done, or I put on a pretty outfit, and if nobody notices, I get sad. I mean, I'm sorry, maybe I'm just not a feminist. I do believe in women's rights, you know that. I'm pro-choice. I believe women should be paid equally with men. But if a woman decides to dress pretty or do something new with her hair, what is the big deal if a coworker compliments you on it? Or a stranger says, hey, you look really pretty. Or someone on Facebook that I've never met says, you know, your hair looked real good today. Is that an insult? No, it's a compliment. And I'm a funny girl. I like joking around. Like, you know, yo, Paula, you know, looking real good. Are those real? Yeah, they are. Is that real? What's in your pants? I mean, I can give as good as I take. To me, that is not sexual harassment. That's just banter among coworkers or among friends. And I know some of you women out there are going to scream at me and tell me I'm wrong. But if you have daughters who are going through even a tenth of what I went through when I went to school and was bullied and harassed by other students when I had no recourse. I mean, it was back in the day long before, you know, kids who were bullied took guns to school or planted bombs, which of course I never would have done anyway, because that's just, I wouldn't have even thought of it. But that didn't happen back then. Back then, if you were bullied, you just took it. Kids being kids is what everybody said. It's just kids being kids. If someone calls you a fat pig, it means, and it's a boy calls you a fat pig, they actually really like you. Now, what message does that send to a young girl? That a boy calls me a fat pig, which means he wants to go on a date with me? Take me to the dance? Wow, what am I going to grow up to think? That if the man I'm seeing or my boyfriend, you know, hits me and calls me a fat pig, that means he loves me more? But that's how it was back then. It was just kids being kids. And when one teacher or a couple teachers see that, and they reach out to a student, even if they are male teachers reaching out to a female student saying, you know, men don't treat women like this. This isn't right. They should be able to do that because today more than ever with social media and cell phones and Snapchat and all the crap where young women, young girls in school, as young as junior high school, are getting exploited or getting bullied online. They need teachers like Mr. Fitz, Mr. Mumon, and Mr. Holben to have a place to go to and say, hey, I need help. But are those teachers going to be there? All these false accusations, all these sensitive issues where now a compliment has become an insult. Everybody has an ulterior motive for telling a woman she looks pretty today or giving her a cute little nickname. I don't know the answer. I'm sure many of you will, and will have comments on this, and I look forward to it as always. And again, I want to say a huge thank you to actually 4 teachers. I forgot about Miss Judith Fackler, my gym teacher in junior high, who heard the girls in gym class calling me a fat pig. And she gathered all the girls around one day. That was when girls and boys took gym separate. And she said, look at Paula, and look at all you. And she said, someday, years from now, you're going to run into Paula somewhere, and Paula's going to be all skinny, and you're going to go off, you're going to have your babies, and you're going to do your thing, and you're not going to be so teeny tiny anymore. Think about that. And guess what? I have run into several of the people who harassed me in high school, who called me horrible names, who called me a fat pig. Well, I'm a size 0. I'm 52 years old. I'm a size 0. And to be honest, when I look at them, I don't think they've ever been a size 0. Miss Fackler was right. So thank you, Miss Fackler. I've looked for Miss Fackler, by the way, Judith Fackler. If anybody knows where she is, how I can contact her. I never properly got to thank her as an adult for what she did for me when she gave the class that lecture. About 30 years from now, you are going to look very different than you look right now, you skinny little cheerleader bitches, basically. She didn't say that, of course. But basically, that's what she was telling them. You know, go out, get married, have babies. You're going to look a lot different. And Paula may surprise you and look a lot different, too. And Paula does. Paula's a 0. So, Miss Fackler, you were right. Thank you, Mr. Holben and Mr. Mumal. I have also looked for you on Facebook and cannot find you. So if anyone knows where the geometry teacher, Mr. Holben, and the math teacher, Mr. Mumal, are, please direct me to them, because I have never gotten to thank them as an adult either for everything they did for me, for getting me through high school. And Mr. Fitz, you are on Facebook. You are my friend. And I think you know, I've told you before, but thank you very much for helping a very awkward and very unaccepted 8th grader feel special when I was in your classroom. And I wish there were more teachers out there like you, and I wish they could do what you did for me and not get into trouble for it. But I will always be your peaches. So thank you for that. And also, I will always keep reading, because you always encouraged all your students to read. So that's the show today. Again, it starts with Bill O'Reilly, but again, Bill O'Reilly is a blip on my radar. I don't care about Bill O'Reilly. I don't care what happens to him. What I would hate to see is for someone like Bill O'Reilly to be railroaded by litigious people who are out to dethrone him, because he is the #1 talk show host, or he was, on cable news. I didn't watch his show. I don't care about his show. I read his books. He's a good author. And I will continue to read his books, because again, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what he did. And in some ways, I don't care what he did. But when we hear these stories and we see these women getting millions and millions of dollars because they say, well, he did this, and then he has to prove he didn't do it. And usually it's hard to do that, so he just gives them a check. That's sort of an incentive, basically, to say, I was insulted, I was sexually harassed. I think we need a better definition of sexual harassment, because there are a lot of very good people out there who are afraid to be the good people they are, because they could get into trouble for doing nothing at all except paying somebody a compliment. that is taken as an insult. Political Paula, out.